exciting. So yeah, thanks for being here, Will.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks
Always
for
nice to come to Evergreen.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, driving up here to the.
Yep.
We should tilt. It is beautiful.
It is beautiful this morning.
Yeah, you got the trees and blue sky and it's warming up, so feels good.
Yeah.
So, I think it was Mindy Sanders that posted here a week ago. How do people overcome agents that rebate commissions back to their buyers? And there's companies out there. I'm not going to say companies, so we don't
No
want
names today.
Yeah, no names.
Yeah.
We don't talk poorly about companies, and it's really not even poorly about them. I mean, if that's their business model to give away their hard-earned commission, that's their business model.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. I mean, I think we work so hard for what we do and what we get paid for, and I think we should keep our commissions. And so when Mindy posted that, you said that you had just come up against a company that has a business model where they rebate a large percentage of their commissions back to the buyer. And you said, hey, I'd be happy to help you out, Mindy. And that's what, I mean, I do love about this company is everyone's so helpful. I mean, really. I mean, for someone to say,
Collaborative.
hey, I'll help you out.
I've got the dialogue. Let me arm you with what you need.
Yeah, not trying to keep it to themselves. And I've
Right.
worked in those companies where it's like back in grade school where you take your peaches and you put your peaches up and
So
you
nobody
hide all
can
your
see what you're doing.
you hide everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
we share. So that's why we got you here
Yeah.
today because you're coaching. You've been coaching now with Buffini and Company for what, year and a half?
Since the beginning of 2018, so 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys go over not just lead generating, but
Everything.
business
Yeah.
building. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a real business. And you mentioned to me again about a week ago that a lot of agents don't really treat this like a business. I mean, we're out selling houses and helping people, but not everyone puts on the business cap
Right.
and is really looking at what are they doing? What are they earning? You know, are you running numbers? Are you looking at the whole picture? So anyway, you're a wealth of knowledge because you're going through all this coaching right now, and it's relevant because you're in the field right now. You know, I haven't sold for many years. I still think that I understand the industry, but it's great having you. You're
In the trenches.
In the trenches. You're dealing with it right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, take it away. How do you show your value and overcome? And you know, there's companies that are out there that say we're going to rebate, we're going to give back. You know, that we're discount brokers. There are agents inside full service companies,
They do this.
Coldwells, Remaxes, Equities that give back their commissions. So we can't just hammer on those companies that advertise. Individual agents are doing this as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, take it away. How are you keeping your commissions?
Yeah, so Todd's right? I mean, you think of the discount brokerages, the prominent names in Denver, and the iBuyers. You think of those people first and foremost. But there's also, you know, the individual agent you're competing with at the listing's probably doing the same thing. And they're just not as in your face about it like you were saying earlier.
Right.
So, and I have to be honest with you, I don't, you know, I have not discounted listings, and the only reason that I haven't is just because when I first got in the business 4 years ago at Equity, Todd and Stacy were like, "No, you don't do that." So I was like, "Okay, yeah, you just don't do that." And so it was just never an option. And I'm really glad that I came here, and I'm glad that I had that influence instead of somebody else telling me, "Oh yeah, you know, you need to or you should." So I just never did, and it's not always been easy, you know, to do that, but. Certainly there are more and more options out there that are willing to lower their discount, you know, to discount themselves, lower their prices. And if you kind of feel a little bit of pressure, but you don't need to do it. And so I think that, you know, from my own standpoint, it certainly would be easier sometimes to say, okay, fine, you know, I'll go from 3.2 to 2.7 or to 2 or whatever. But, you know, they say that, you know, discomfort is growth, right? And growth requires discomfort. And so I've been willing to get uncomfortable and try to figure it out. So I don't have all the answers. I'll share, you know, a couple examples just from what's happened to me recently. And then hopefully we can extrapolate that and find something helpful for everybody else. So recently, what the comment on Facebook to Mindy was, I think she had somebody that was going with a buyer maybe that was trying to go with a discount broker or an iBuyer. And I had just had the same thing happen. And so I had a client who I met last year, and we kind of went and did some showings. She decided to wait a year. So I followed up with her at the beginning of the year, and she got and I reached out, and she responded via text and said, "Hey, it's great to hear from you. Just in the interest of full transparency, I'm considering going with, blah, blah, blah company, which is a discount brokerage." And I was kind of taken back because we had talked about discount brokerages the year before, and she had signed a buyer agency with me the year before, and now we were back to square one of, okay, she's doing this again. So, I think when you have a relationship that, is somebody or have worked with in the past, and they, tell you, "Oh, I'm thinking about going with someone else," it can be a hit at first, but you just try and let that go. And so I just prepared some notes today of what I did, and you guys stop me and we can discuss as appropriate.
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
So, the first thing that I think, because I was, thinking through this with Todd, I was like, what did I do? So I kind of went back and read our text messages. And so the first thing I did is I researched the company she was thinking about going with. And I just got real familiar with their business model and what they do. And my first goal was to just to show her me versus them. What are your differences, okay? I think one of the best things that I did right off the bat that helped me and got my foot in the door and ultimately made the biggest difference was I just told her, I said, "Okay, no problem. And just so you know, I support you either way. Whatever you decide to do is great with me. If you're, a big part of my job is just helping people look at their options. And if you're open to it, I'd love to give you my 2 cents." And so I kind of diffused this tension and this positioning that we were kind of doing, and just said, "I support you either way, whatever you think is great." And I think that helped her kind of feel a little more comfortable and allowed me to have an opinion. So
versus what are you thinking? Why are you doing that? You don't want to do that.
Well,
that's a terrible company.
Your gut is to just be like, "No, that's a mistake. Don't do that. You're making a mistake. You're going to lose out." And, you kind of just have to surrender it right away. And that's kind of what I did. Is like, look, okay, that's great. Whatever you decide to do is great with me. I support you. And that's honestly the truth. Because if she had said no, she's going to go do this, then she's not a real lead, right? She's probably not a good fit for me and what I offer anyways. And I don't want to spend time, beating my head against a brick wall trying to work on that. So.
But your first thought wasn't, "Oh, I'll match that."
No. Not even remotely.
Okay.
No.
I think a lot of people, that would be their first instinct before they even play it in their head. How can I get this person to come around and see my value? Instead of thinking about this, they just initially would go, "Oh, well, I'll do the same thing." I think a lot of people don't even process it.
Yeah.
So obviously,
well,
it's your business model not to do that. So you didn't have to even go through, would I, could I? You've already told yourself, "I don't do that," correct?
Yeah, you're right. It didn't even go through that filter.
Right.
And, she's a buyer at $450, right? And right now that is insanely hard, as you guys know.
So competitive.
It's crazy. But yeah, the other thing is, I'm going to work really, really, really hard on this, and there's no way I can take 50% off of, which is what this other company is offering. They're offering 50%. They're going to say, "Okay, hey, Mrs. Buyer, we're going to make 2.8% on this, and we'll give you half of it." So at her price point, that's over $6,000.
It's a lot.
Okay,
That's a lot of money.
But like we learned from Marian Johnson, you've got very bright lines, and you know that this is my value, and I'm not negotiating below that. So I don't even have to think about it. I don't even have to process it. It's no, I need to educate this client.
right. And maybe honestly, I kind of thought, okay, at first I was like, whatever, just go. But then I thought, I need to
Fight for this.
I need to fight for this a little bit, because this would not be good stewardship, right? So first thing I did is I just put her, "I support you whatever you decide to do." And that allowed, and so she said, "Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts." And I said, "Great, can we jump on the phone after you go meet with XYZ company tomorrow?" And she was like, "Yeah." So she went and met with them, and then we had a phone call set up. And okay, so this is what happened after that. Again, your first, I had researched me and I'd researched the other company. I kind of had an agenda of what I wanted to get done. But the first, again, you're going to want to talk and you're going to want to make the case. And the first thing I did, and this is Chris Voss talks about this. He's the FBI hostage negotiator that wrote the book on negotiating. I just asked questions, right? So it'd be easy to talk for 30 minutes, not let her get a word in. I was just asking questions, right? So I was kind of saying, so tell me why you're thinking about this company. Why are you buying? All the things you'd want to know anyways. Why are you buying now? What led you to consider this option, right? Is it that, some people don't like realtors because they've had bad experiences with realtors. Some people are it's just financial. They're fiscally conservative. They're pinched for cash, and $6,000 is going to go a long way for them. And then for her, it was more just that she didn't understand the difference between me and their company. So why would I not go with someone who's going to pay me a little more, right? Mm-hmm. But you've got to really very quickly get down to why. Why is what matters, and you'll just talk at them if you don't know why. And you kind of have to address specifically what's going on. So for her, she just didn't understand the difference very much. When do you want to buy? What's your budget? Do you have a down payment? What are you looking at? All that. And so you really need to engage them and kind of have them talking to you and not just talk at them, right? If you get, 5-10 minutes into your monologue and you realize you've been talking
the whole time
and they haven't talked,
you need to stop and ask them a question, right? And I do that still. I'll catch myself and I'm like, oh gosh, ask a question. You need to engage them because they're not going to learn or hear you if you just talk at them. They're going to tune out and do something else. So I gathered information. For her, it was just, I don't understand the difference between you and them. Why wouldn't I take the $6,000? So again, and then I reminded her again in the conversation, I support you 100%. My job today is just to give you some options. I'm an advisor, help people look at their options. And maybe we can talk through this. And she was great with that. And so then I just kind of begin to compare and contrast me and the other company, right? And the case I made to her is, look, you're trying to buy a house in Denver at $450,000. And I customized it to her, right? You need a professional to help you do this because this is really hard. I know the market really well. I showed her the market. I showed her, under contracts versus actives and how crazy it is. And I kind of just said, one of the things I did is I'm trying to give her context, right? Okay, this company over here, right? They do, and she kind of, thrown the number at, well, they're really good at what they do. They do 140 deals a year. And so I broke that down real quick. So it's about 12 a month, right? And they're this and that. And I said, okay, well, that makes sense. But just so you know, here's how this company operates, right? So they're a discount brokerage. So they're doing things this way. So if you run the numbers, they really need to do volume to make any money. They have to have huge amounts of business to make any money at all. And so, I'm actually in the top percent of the metro area, but I don't do anywhere near 12 deals a year, right? Or 12 deals a month, right? So, and what did just happen though is I had some clients that were at your same price point. And so I just told a real story about me. I'm now trying to advertise my own strength. I just had some clients last month that were in your same price point, and we were in a multiple offer situation. I was in a bidding war for 8 hours. It started at 6 p.m.
Oh my gosh.
It started at 6 p.m. one night and went till about 10, and then I resumed it at 8 a.m. in the morning the next day, and it was a full 8 hours. And this happened on the first day the house was on the market, and they had 3 offers right away. We were not the highest offer. We were not the best offer in terms of terms because somebody was waiving appraisal. We were their 3rd best offer, and we still won the house. And I spent 8 hours negotiating that on their behalf. This other company you're thinking about working with is doing 12 months. Do you think they have that much time to spend on your deal? Are they going to get into an 8-hour bidding war for you and really work it? Do they have time? Are they compensated on success? You brought up my commission. You know that I make 2.8% and things like that. So, I'm compensated on success only and I make commission, right? These guys are salaried and there's no success fee or anything like that. And they have a whole bunch of other deals they're juggling all at the same time. So each agent over there probably has anywhere from 5 to 10 deals all at the same time, right? And so and it's really important. We can't ever talk bad about another brokerage. 1, because it's just wrong. But 2, if you do that, you immediately look bad. And it won't necessarily be acknowledged in the conversation, but you just look bad right away, and you've degraded yourself. So as hard as it is, maybe, don't do it. You just can't do it. So I tried really hard to walk that line and not say anything bad. But one of the points I did bring up was these guys, here's what's going to happen. You're going to call either me or them, and you are going to say, okay, I really like the house. I want to put in an offer. And then if it's me or them, we're going to say, okay, great, I'll put it on for free. I'll let you know. And you're going to hang up. And you're going to have a pit in your stomach because this is your down payment that you've worked for how many years. And you are now entrusting a major, me or them is going to be instrumental in the next 3 to 5 years of your life. We're going to have a major say in what house you get and at what price and what terms. So you're trusting one of us with everything you've worked for and everything you're hoping for the next 3 to 5 years. And again, your options are somebody who's, successful when you're successful, or somebody who's got 12 deals that other month and may or may not have time to get into an 8-hour bidding war. And by the way, I told her this. I said, I average 1 offer per buyer. And it's because I can get into an 8-hour bidding war and still get the house when we're the 3rd best offer, right? So these are all just things to consider. There's no right or wrong answer. These are just things to consider. So I'm just trying to kind of paint the picture for her of the subtle differences, right?
Yep.
I'm kind of planting a seed. And so after I make my point, I say, okay, what do you think about that? Any thoughts or questions? Instead of just going to my next point. And so we kind of went through the conversation, and there was more and more things like that. I did also make the case like, listen, if you were a real estate agent, you were coming into the business and you could work for yourself and be paid commission, or you could work for somebody else, have them set your hours and get paid salary. Which would you be attracted to, right? And why? And then, okay, if this is the less desirable model, you're telling me this is the less desirable model, what kind of agent's going to be attracted to that? What does their skill set look like, right? And then these are the, so again, here are your options. And again, without talking bad about anybody, does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
just highlighting the differences here. So, we went through the phone call, and I think that's, I said a couple other things, but that's, the only other thing I kind of added was just, there's different ways to offer value, right? The easiest way is just to cut your price. Okay. So, if this other company that's saying that they can beat us and they're the better option than us, if they really are, and they really charge way less than we do, wouldn't I have been out of a job a long time ago? Right. And this is a for-profit company, by the way. Their goal is to make money. So if they could charge more, don't you think they would, right? And so the buyer, whoever you're talking to, they're not going to agree with you necessarily in all this, but it's planting the seed. So
Rhetorical questions.
So I planted the seed, and she said, "Well, I have an appointment with them tomorrow. I want to go. I want to see how it goes." So great. So you're not necessarily going to sell them right there, but my plan was to follow up with her. And I did. And so she went and she did some showings with this other company. And some of the things I had kind of said and planted ended up kind of being pretty accurate on the showings. And she kind of realized, oh, I'm not sure if these people do care about me. I think they do have a lot going on. The showing agent just kind of let me in and is standing outside while I walk through the house, and they're constantly on their phone. And then everything else I said about how their model works. So I followed up because follow-up's really important, and she ended up reaching back out and saying, she just sent me an emoji that said, you won, and it had a person celebrating. And so she said, you won. So I was like, great. Well, let's set up some showings. Let's get you pre-approved and all this. And even over the next week, she still had more questions, and we still continued the negotiations. She had a lot of questions about the buyer agency agreement. Long story short, she ended up signing it. And we're looking for houses now. So hopefully that's helpful. But I think the keys there are, I researched, who I was dealing with, the other company. I really tried to focus on what is it for her? What is it that is, what is driving her to go to this other company? You got to understand that and then address it. And then I just helped her see the options. And when you see the options objectively, most people are going to realize that you are the better option, right? And I catered this towards me. I mentioned things like winning the bidding war and 1 offer per buyer. Everybody has strengths, and you just kind of cater it towards what you do well. But you have to believe in yourself first and foremost, right? Because it takes creative energy to think through, well, what am I good at, and how am I better than this other company she's looking at? And then you just bring that up to them. Now, this is not always going to work, but this is going to work a lot of the time. And instead of probably going to the bottom, and seeing how low you can go, like the stock market right now. Sorry. I think it's important to kind of illustrate what you do well. And, if they walk away, then you gave it your best shot and that's fine. But I think most people, when presented with the options and able to kind of see them clearly, especially if you have a relationship with them and they trust you, this should probably I would imagine this would go your way more often than not. It certainly has for me.
No, that's all. So, in a nutshell, if I can break this down like into 4 or 5 bullet points, I think the first thing was you have bright lines, meaning, and Stacy said it, those of you who've done Brian Johnson, the mastermind, bright lines meaning you know what your business model is. You know, I don't negotiate. Or if you do negotiate, how much do you negotiate? Is it a dollar amount? Is it a percentage amount? You know your business. So I think that's key, because if you haven't already thought about this, if this ever comes up, how am I going to respond? You could be giving away the farm. You'll be the person that just goes, I'll match that, without having thought about it, the time, the energy that you're going to put into this person, the business that you're going to lose. I mean, anytime you're working, you're not
prospecting.
Yeah. So is it worthwhile to take a client at a half and then spend that time, the energy, putting that deal together for half the commission, and now you can't go prospect for someone and get a full maybe it is worth it to you. Somebody, obviously that company thinks it's worth it to them. Do you think it's worth it to you? You need to go through this process, and you've done that. You've said, I'm not negotiating. Stacy and I have said that. We're not negotiating.
So when it comes up, we don't have to think about it. This is our bright line, and we will not waver. Period.
Which really makes life easier. You don't have to go back and forth and spin.
And for this client, I'm doing this, and for this client, I'm doing that, and I can't remember what I did for that one, but they just referred me this one, so now I have to match what I did.
And so I recently have 2 sellers who are very close friends. One referred me to the other, and one of them was considering going for sale by owner, like really, really intensely. But he kind of wanted me to sell his house. We were talking for months and months, and he pushed me and said, "Can't you? I need to net this much. Can't you just discount?" And I kind of just said, I've never discounted, and all these people that love and trust me, many of whom have, this has been my rate for them, and I just, I wouldn't feel right about doing it for one person when I haven't done it for everybody else. And I said, what would you do in my position? He goes, I wouldn't discount, right? And so, and he signed it, and now they're under contract. He signed with me, we're selling their house, they're under contract. So. Yeah, you can't. I think you just commit, and it'll save you a lot of trouble.
Save you a lot of trouble. So you knew your bright line. You knew you weren't going to cut. So that's off the table. So the next thing is, how do I show my value? And you started by asking questions.
Which I love.
Gotta ask questions.
Love.
You don't know why she was going. I mean,
you might be pitching on something that doesn't even matter to her.
Yeah.
You got to really dial in and figure out what is it that is the hang up.
Yeah.
Where do you
so you ask questions, and then. It's basic negotiation. You got to ask questions to overcome the objections so that you can show your value. So once you pinpointed what it is that she was looking for, then you can show how your value is going to help overcome that, which means you have to understand your value. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, a lot of agents don't take the time or energy to go, what is it that I bring to the table? What? And I heard it, a huge skill level of yours is helping people negotiate. Getting that deal, and you do a lot of research, and you were just telling me earlier about your listing and how you helped your seller decide on a multiple offer by investigating the agent that wrote the offer, by looking deeply into the offer, how well written is it, because that's going to show
the competency.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, there's a
research is important.
A lot goes into bringing your value, and it's usually not. I advertise on Zillow. I put pretty signs up. It's usually about, what am I doing in here?
It's the little nuances.
It's the nuances. Yeah. It's the details that you're bringing to the table that's adding the value. But you understand your value. You have to understand your value. If you don't, in the absence of value, there's price. So
I've also talked about food, right? I've talked about what's your favorite restaurant? Like my wife and I really love Cherry Creek. We go to this place called North. We go to this place called, my personal favorite is Blue Island Oyster. It's a seafood restaurant in Cherry Creek. It's really expensive, and then there's McDonald's, right? We could also go to McDonald's, right? And so there's we drive 30 minutes in traffic to go to Blue Island Oyster to spend $150, sometimes $200 on a really nice date night, right? You know, and then there's all these other options. You don't have to do McDonald's, but Buffini makes the point that people are very willing to drive further and pay more for outstanding service and outstanding product. And so you just have to get to a place where you realize you can offer that. And you don't. So I'm thinking there's people probably sitting here going, but I've closed 2 deals since I got licensed,
right,
and I have no pipeline. I don't have the luxury of not lowering my price. I had so that's okay. And look, you guys know my story. My first year was humble. Was my first year humble?
It was humble.
It was humble. It was humble. It was hard. It was not pretty, right?
No.
And so,
But a lot of people's first year is humble.
Yes,
but
you
the
got to
point
get
is,
past the first year.
When you get into the first year, you just feel like your back's up against the
Yeah.
wall, and you will take anything that comes at you. And I, made the decision early on I wasn't going to discount, and you can still be successful even if you feel like your back's up against the wall. The main important thing here is to get out of scarcity, right? And it's hard to get out of scarcity when you're running out of money, and your wife, like my wife was working 3 jobs. It's hard to get out of that mindset. But the other thing is, if I had discounted myself in that first year, all it would have done is reinforced everything that I was struggling with, which was, you're not enough, you're not good at this, you made a mistake, you can't be successful, you're never going to be like, all these other people. And if I discounted myself and worked really hard, it kind of is like, you're kind of just agreeing with the seller, like, hey, I'm not really worth as much as I'd like to be here. So
It really sets a precedent.
for me, I don't know if maybe not for you, but for me, it would have reinforced all the things I feared, which was you're not good at this and you can't be good at this, and at least fight for yourself, right? And maybe there's an appropriate time to discount. I don't know, maybe not, but like, I never have, and I just don't think you need to go there. I think you need to figure out how to make it work. And I told Angie this at the lunch the other day. I feel like I got my first deal because of Angie Zergot. And so what happened was I went to sales meeting, which, by the way, go to sales meeting, because I got my first deal because I went to sales meeting, right? So I'd been licensed for 7 or 8 months. I had a seller listed her house. She threatened to sue me. It blew up. It was crazy. It was bad.
I remember that.
And Todd remembers it. She
was nuts.
Crazy.
Okay, so after that happened, I just did not recover. I was just so down and I was depressed. And somebody referred me a buyer who had no money at all. He had nothing, and he was trying to go VA, and he had come from another agent who wasn't helping him, and he was a referral, and so I was trying to help him, but he didn't have money for closing costs. He didn't have money for earnest money. He had nothing.
And so, wants to buy a house.
And so I was trying to figure it out, and I was really close to giving up, because I was like, this guy, if you don't have money, you can't buy a house, period, end of discussion. And so I went to a sales meeting, and I was talking to Angie Zergot after sales meeting. I was a brand new agent, and she was like, oh, I don't give up on buyers very easily. I bet you'll find a way. And she was just so confident and so, pleasant about it that I was like, what am I missing? I can't afford to miss this. So I went home and I figured it out. And we figured out how to premium price his closing costs so the lender would cover him. And so then we got him pre-approved, and then we still had the earnest money challenge. And so we found this condo, and they were asking for $3,000 earnest money. And I wrote into the contract that we would tier earnest money to distributions over a month when he got paid, and it would be 500, 500, right? So 500, on his first paycheck, 500 2 weeks later on his second paycheck. So we got him to accept 1,000, and it was a VA loan, and the appraisal took an unbelievably long amount of time. This was like my first closing. It took close to 8 weeks because it was also over Christmas, and so title companies were closed, but it closed. And all of a sudden, all those things about you'll never do a deal and you'll never be successful and all the scarcity was just, I was like, whoa, this happened. And I remember walking out of our first closing going, I can't believe that just happened. I want to do this again. I want to do it again. And that was so critical. It was so critical. So thank you, Angie Zergot. And you cannot, it's hard when your back's up against the wall and you haven't done much business, but you can't afford to be in scarcity, right? You have to believe in yourself. You just have to. And if for no other reason, because you're part of a great brokerage, there's a great team here that can help you and get you past that point. But that's non-negotiable. And if you live in that world, you will stay in that world, I think.
No, we started Buffini 2 weeks ago, but yesterday, scarcity was part of it, talking about If you only have one lead, you will work that lead whether the person's a jerk, has no money, but the more leads you have, the less scarcity you have, the more options you have.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's how this business works. You don't want to have just one guy out there. You need a pipeline, and you need to build that. You need to take classes, and you need to learn how to do that. But back to reducing your commissions, and you did mention that you've never done that. Again, if you're someone that thinks of maybe giving a repeat client a discount, or if I buy and I sell a disc, have the plan now. Sit down with yourself now, and maybe it's never come up. Maybe you've never had a seller who's also going to be a buyer. Because if you get a seller who's going to become a buyer, the question will come up, will I get a deal? So you need to think about it now. Or if you double end that transaction, are you going to discount? Are you going to get... These are things you need to go through your mind right now. You write it down. Here's my business plan. I'll do X. And then
stick to it.
Don't move from there. That's your bright line. I have no issue with people making sound business decisions that are thoughtfully figured out. Here's the big picture, and here's the plan. But to not have ever gone through the process and thought about it, and then it comes up and you just throw it out, is that really something you want to stick with? So, business. Run this like a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this: I'm in a group with some other realtors and other brokerages that do between 25 and 40 deals a year, and there's maybe 5 or 6 of us, and these are really, really, really good agents.
When you say good, what makes them good?
How
do you qualify good?
Production, skill set, likability, right? Like all the things you expect. And there are still people even in that group who discount themselves. And it's not because they need to. They're just not thinking about their business like a business, right? They just kind of, they're not thinking about numbers. They're just kind of like, well, if they're going to buy with me too, then I can, because I'll still make a pretty good amount of money. And it's like, wow, so there's like, you're really good at what you do, and I respect that, but you're not, maybe this is a weakness. You're not thinking about this as a business, because you definitely don't need to do that. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And we're actually going to have a discussion maybe next Tuesday, it might be 2 Tuesdays from now. We're going to talk about commissions and how you can earn more income next year without having to do more transactions.
Yeah.
Because
raising your price point.
Trust me, raising your price point and not giving away your commission. There are brokerages that advertise that's their business model. But just like you said, good, solid agents that we respect are still giving away their hard-earned dollars because they do have the mentality, that's enough. That's good enough. Versus, what's my plan? And looking at, what did I do last year and how can I increase my income without always doing more business? Sometimes it's just net more per transaction.
It's everything.
Yeah, and I think in that same Tuesday talk, we're also going to talk about if you are going to offer some sort of I won't even call it a discount, I'm going to call it a rebate, because I like the word rebate.
Right.
We're going to give you some tips and tricks on how to do that, so that you aren't giving away the farm, but your buyer, your seller feels like they're getting something special.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk
Unexpected
about that.
extras.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like
I've
that,
got some good tips on that, because we've been up against that many times.
So we're running, how are we doing here?
Yeah,
Kind of running
so-
over. How are we doing on questions? What do we got?
So, let's see.
I saw Eileen said, relationships with other agents, it's huge. Having a good reputation in this industry, being likable, being professional, doing your work well, this is a long career path. And you will get known, and you will have a reputation. And when you build a good reputation, that will help your client. So there's part of your value proposition. You can say, and Stacey and I have, when we were selling, a lot, we would say, look, people enjoy working with us. We communicate great. We write strong contracts. We pre-qualify our clients. We don't have sale fails. People want to work with us because it's a good transaction. Not because we're special, but because we do a good business. And anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Run a good business.
Absolutely. Mindy Sanders was watching, so she said thank you. Very helpful. So Parker said, Will, how did you find out what the other company was?
She told me.
And yeah, we just
We
didn't
just-
disclose
we're-
the name in this
Yeah.
because we don't want to talk bad about anyone. But
Yeah.
yeah, she did tell you who the company was, and
Yeah.
so you were able to conduct some research on that. So
Yeah.
good question,
That's a good
Parker.
question.
Eileen did say you never negotiate. Even if it's a client who's selling or has sold 10 houses, some people who have worked with you for 10 years and have sold 10 houses or serve as an A-plus referral source might be offended if you don't give them a break.
Yeah, that's true. And I haven't been in the business for 10 years yet, so I'll let you know when I get there. And I'll defer to you on that one. I'll say this. We said I've never discounted. So I've discounted twice. And once was 2 months ago. There was a guy who, gosh, he went to the dentist and they drilled through and somehow messed up his brain, and he's not employable anymore. He's got cancer. His liver's failing. His wife's leg is broken. They're like on their way to bankruptcy. And I'm a man of faith, and so I've been praying about them. And I just felt overwhelmingly like I wanted to and should sell their house completely for free. And so I did. I charged them the minimum to cover, our cost, our equity and my marketing things like that. But I don't really consider that a discount. I was looking at it more as a charitable thing, more as a gift, because that's an important part of my my outlook on the world, my business plan as well, is giving back. So I wouldn't really consider that a discount because I really made nothing on that, right? He ended up trying to give me some money later, but it wasn't a discount to get the listing. He was going to use me no matter what, and I decided I wanted to do it for free to help his family because I'm not even sure how much longer he'll be with us, right? So that was just a thing from the heart. And then I did my very first listing ever. I went to 2.7. And the only reason I went to 2.7 and not to 0 or to 1% was because of Stacy Schuster, right? So I called the hotline and just said, I'm under so much pressure. I've never done a listing. They want to sell at, 480, which to me was a huge, scary price point at the time. And I was so overwhelmed, still dealing with confidence issues. And Stacy was like, I just absolutely, no matter what you do, would not go below 2.7%. And so I did that for my first listing. It was some friends of mine that knew I was brand new, and I really wanted to do a good job for them. And I was okay taking 2.7 because that was still a good amount of money, and it was gonna, So I probably could have gotten away either way with it, but yeah, those are the only 2 times I've ever discounted, and so really just one if you take out the giving thing.
The freebie.
Yeah, that's a charity.
Yeah.
But that's a
Very
great
kind
question, Eileen. And Stacy and I mean, we have a plan.
Eileen says you're a good man.
We do have repeat client.
Yeah, we have a special
Discount.
discount for a repeat client.
We have if you sell and buy. Mm-hmm. We have and I'm not going to call these discounts. We have a rate.
Yeah, we have a rate.
We have a rate, and we don't go from, and it's, you get involved in discount. Well, what's discounting? Is there a set standard? We have a set standard. Mm-hmm. There is no set standard. So when we call these other companies discount brokers, discount from what?
Yeah, that's true.
So legally, they're not even discount brokers because they just have a set fee. It just might be a lot lower than what your set fee is. Mm-hmm. But our set fee does have a smaller, a little discount off of our standard fee. Small. We don't go from 3% down to 2%. That's a 30% take. I mean, we might go from a repeat from a 3 down to a 2.8. Mm-hmm. And that's, what we do for repeat. Or you're a buyer and a seller. We'll give you a small percentage, not a percent. We're talking, hundreds, not thousands of dollars.
And when I even got in business, you said stay away from percentages. I'll give you $500 back
yes.
or $1,000.
It's so much easier to do dollars. Yep. Because people throw out a percent. Oh, we'll give you a percent off. No, that's 33%.
Well, and that's the thing. You walk into a clothing store and something is a % off, you're going to be like, this is crap. The percent is not anything. But when you're talking real estate, it's thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars. So you kick someone a $500 rebate and they're like, thank you.
Yeah, I would rather say dollars because they see that. They see.
Yeah, it's a
like,
tangible
that sounds
amount.
really nice. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just as long as you have it pre-planned. It's your business plan, so you're not having to fight the pricing game. You want to be in the value game if you want to do this long term.
Yeah.
Because there will always be somebody who can do it cheaper.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
thanks,
you
man.
so much for
This-
sharing.
this is-
This
yeah.
is
This
so
was fun.
helpful.
My pleasure.
Yeah,
Did you
really.
guys find this helpful?
Yeah, I hope you guys found
Thumbs
it
up.
helpful. And if you'd like to sit here, if you've got something you'd like to share.
Yeah.
I mean, Will chimed in and said he'd help Mindy, I'm like, well, if you're going to help Mindy, let's help
Let's
everybody.
help everybody.
But,
Yeah.
we'd always
Yeah.
appreciate people that can come and give us your point of view of how you do business and
Yeah.
and help everybody. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
everybody's
awesome.
got different skill sets. So there
Yeah.
are things that I'm not good at, that Todd's not good at, that you guys are going to excel at, and this is one of them. So
Yeah.
thank you so very
Oh
much.
my gosh, my
So-
pleasure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a great day.
Have a great